Hey guys, welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about Golden Age power stations or Tartarian power stations. And we're going to be building off of the work of Age of Disclosure. They did a pretty cool video. Here it is, Tartary Empire, the Ether. Um, it's a good watch. And at the end of this video, something was brought up, which I had never heard before, and it was talking about how there are, uh, how we question these churches. Well, what was pointed out was a lot of these old churches or mosques have a particular um, design on the outside of them and on the inside of them, and by that pattern or design, you can kind of tell if they were power stations or had some significant function. So we're going to kind of build off that idea, and let's take a look here. And what was pointed out in this video is that even in our current day, we, color code things, and this is Nova Scotia Power Incorporated. So we still kind of carry on this practice of using certain colors in combinations to note certain functions. So some of the examples that were pointed out in that video, I'll just go over a few of them. This is what is this? Laleli Mosque, and this is in Istanbul, Turkey. So what we would consider a mosque, the idea put forward was this is a power station, and you can tell by these stripes. And sometimes they're red stripes or white stripes, or even brown or black. But this is kind of how you can tell, is based on these. And so not only will you see horizontal stripes on some of these churches or what we call churches or mosques, when you look on the interior of them, over the arches they have these vertical stripes. And I'm starting to wonder if there is a pattern to be, some information to be gleaned from the specific colors. But so that's just one example. And of course these places all have just the ceilings are beyond belief in their height. So this is, I can't pronounce this, but this is the oldest mosque in Cairo. And it has, as you can see here, it's got these red stripes. And we're told this is a mosque, but you've got all these interesting devices and domes, and you could very easily imagine how this might have a different function. And we're told this was built in the like 800 late 800s AD, so 1100 years ago or so. And this was a structure we were looking at. But again, these might not be places of worship. They might be places of worship, but in addition to that, they very well could have had some function related to energy. This is another example from that video, and this is a cathedral or mosque in Cordoba, Spain. And you can't quite see the horizontal stripes, but there's some vertical stripes over this entrance. And when you get on the inside of this place, you can notice all these really cool striped arches. And it's always over an arch. You'll see these vertical stripes on some of these buildings. So let's take a look at another church here, what we call a church. This is in Sofia, Bulgaria. And this is a picture from 1925. This church was the victim of a communist terrorist plot, I guess is the best way to put it. It was attacked in an act of terrorism. And again, you've got these, I believe these were red stripes, and over the arches you've got stripes. And I think this is what it looked like before the terrorist attack. And you've got domes, and again, it's just not hard to imagine that there was a function besides just a place of worship for this place. And here, let's go through another one. And Santa Maria Cathedral, and this building has some nice some stripes on it. I think these are brown, but a lot of the brick has been faded here. And let's see here, where is this one? Roman Catholic Cathedral, Verona, Italy. And if we look at the interior, again, you can kind of see that it's faded, but you have these arched stripes that are arched vertically. And let's take a look here. Oh, and in this city, Verona, there's this tower called the Lamberti Tower, and you've got your vertical stripes, and you've got it over here, and you can see your horizontal stripes here. And this tower is Verona's tallest such tower at the height of 84 meters, and it houses 2 bells. So it's generally, you've got something really tall with bells in it and antenna, and it's not hard to imagine that this could definitely be some type of energy source. And I think just a couple more examples here. Sienne Cathedral, these appear to be black stripes. And these doors, by the way, it almost seems like they were 2 large doors that they turned into these little doors. Here's another one, Prato. I believe this is in Tuscany as well. And you can see that you've got your horizontal stripes and you've got vertical stripes over these arches. And this is the inside of Vazelle. This is in France. And again, massive arches with these vertical stripes. So I think these are all examples from that video, and there's a whole lot more. Go watch it. But I'm going to take a look now at some of the digging that I did and where it led me. Now, before I look at some more churches, I just want to point out an observation, and it's with regards to these rose windows, these circular windows that you will see above the entrances of a lot of old churches, cathedrals. And I've always kind of wondered what is motivating the builders of these structures, whether they be churches or machines or mosques. What's motivating them to continuously incorporate this these rose windows, circular windows above all the entrances of these machines or churches? There must be some motivation behind it, just besides it just being a design feature. And I toyed around with cymatics in a previous video, where if you apply frequency to a medium like sand, and you apply a certain frequency, it'll take on the shape, it'll take on a certain pattern, and you can capture that pattern. So I was contemplating if these these rose windows of these churches, if whatever pattern was on the front of the window represented the resonant frequency of the building or structure. But so that's definitely on the table. But something else that kind of caught my eye was, you've got this concept of dream catchers, and I've always wondered, so why you have these circular shapes and you have these intricate patterns within these circles, and usually with feathers hanging down. So why is this considered a good luck charm that wards off evil? And I mean, we still have this tradition, myth that is we carry forward till today. And looking down here, so looking at an explanation of a dream catcher, the function, it says, good dreams are clear and know the way to the dreamer, descending through the feathers. Bad dreams, however, are confused and confusing. They cannot find their way through the web and are trapped there until the sun rises and it evaporates them. So there's this belief that these dream catchers, the negative energies or spirits or whatever it is, nightmares, they get caught in these patterns. And I just thought that was interesting because usually you hang these above, with regards to sleeping children, for instance, they're supposed to be hung above their beds, right? And so the concept is they're supposed to be above you, and the negative energies, entities, presences, whatever, they get stuck here. And what do you see with these churches? You know, in these rose windows, they're always above the entrances. So it's just a thought, but I kind of thought that was another interesting aspect to these rose windows. But let's look at some more of these power stations. Now let's take a look at some more of these potential churches slash power stations that I found just kind of digging around. This particular church is called Trinity Church, and we're told it was constructed in 1891, or at least the start of construction, and it's got these vertical or horizontal lines, as well as you got your vertical stripes over these arches, and I think I've got a clearer picture of this. Yeah, but here you can see the vertical stripes, and of course you've got these horizontal stripes, which kind of fits this pattern. And you got a bell tower here, and this is supposed to be an Orthodox church. So we've looked at mosques, Catholic churches, Orthodox churches, and you know, we'll continue to look at some more. This is Old St. Mary's Catholic Church, and this is in Detroit, Michigan. And you've got the vertical stripes over these arches, or built into these arches here. And this one, there might have been a few stripes here, but they're kind of hard to tell. They're faded. But this church is, let's see, it was constructed in 1876, and the church in 1876, and of course there's nothing that I can find that points to the fact that we actually built this place. Moving on. This church, it's called All Saints, and this is an Anglican church, and it's in Dunedin in New Zealand. And you've got black stripes here, some white stripes, but you've also got these arched vertical stripes. And I think what's interesting about this particular church, while I was doing some research on it, I think the construction date for this is 1865. And let's just verify that. 1865, okay. So there's a photo from the late 1860s, and it shows this church. But of course, I can't find anything showing it's being built, but I can find one of it from the late 1860s. But while I was doing some digging and looking at this city of Dunedin, and that's where this church is, I came across this. This is just kind of a side. I came across this particular hotel, and it's called the Oriental Hotel. And there's this really interesting picture of this hotel, and I'm just going to blow this up here. And you could kind of see that there are these stairways here. You seem to have a whole bunch of earth, and it seems like some of it is impacting this hotel, which is called the Oriental Hotel. But you've got these stairs that kind of have been designed to go around it. Now, let me show you another picture of this same hotel. This is the same hotel. We're going to blow this up. So here is all that earth. Here were these stairs. So something happened, and you could even see underneath these stairs, all this earth appears to be rolling in through here. So, what happened here? That where all this earth encompassed this building. And what I find interesting about this whole situation is I've spotted this previously in a video. I was talking about Bunker Hill in Los Angeles, and there is a picture. This is Bunker Hill, and on the top there's of course some mansions, but 1899 there was a photo, and you could see we had the same kind of situation where it looks like this building was engulfed in this by all this earth. And it's just kind of a similarity, and Bunker Hill ended up getting leveled, and the same thing happened with this area. And let me see if I can get back to the article. So yeah, this hotel built in 63, demolished for some reason less than 30 years later. So demolished in 1887. Okay, so the question of who designed this building has long been one that's puzzled. It's been a puzzle of Dunedin's architectural history. So he speculates, the person writing this article speculates it's this person by the name of H.W. Clayton. But while the person who wrote this article was researching, he found a newspaper article online on microfilm, and in the article it stated that this Clayton person called for tenders for lowering a hotel to the permanent level. It was at this time that the section of Princes Street, which is where this is, known as the Cutting, in which the Oriental was built, was lowered to the line of the rest of the street. So there was some lowering of this whole area, just like there was with Bunker Hill. Very interesting. Just wanted to point that out. Moving on, this All Saints Community Church, this is in Toronto, and again, it dates to the late 1800s. You got some stripes going on, you got vertical stripes, and you got your rose window, and I believe there is an interior shot of, it's got arches with vertical stripes as well, and some horizontal stripes. So it doesn't matter, the denomination of these churches. Like a lot of them that date back to the 1800s and way before, supposedly, they're carrying on this tradition, but they're not really supposed to have all been in contact with each other, but they're all kind of doing the same things. So that's about it as far as churches, but now I started noticing this pattern in other types of buildings, so let's talk about that. Now, at this point of the investigation, things took a little bit of a turn for me, and I came across some older buildings in Bristol, and this style of building here is called Bristol Byzantine, and it's a variety of Byzantine revival architecture, supposedly, that was popular in the city of Bristol from 1850 to 1880, and many buildings in this style have been destroyed or demolished. But there's some notable examples, so let's take a look at this building called the Granary, built supposedly in 1869, and again, it's you got your horizontal stripes, you got your arched stripes over the arches here, and we're told it's just a granary. And this got me thinking that I suspect we inherited this building. We didn't build it. And the thought was, well, You know, we've looked at the people who built all these mansions and churches. Well, they must have had production facilities, places where they actually produce things. And I suspect that some of these buildings we've inherited and are being misdescribed to us. And there's another building here. This is another building in Bristol. And as you can see, it's got some white stripes and it's got arches that are striped. And I believe this place produced vehicles. The Carriage Works. Let's see, yeah, manufacturer of cars. And supposedly built in '62. So the culture before us, they must have had production facilities to produce all their goods and their structures. So, you know, we use this to build cars at one point, apparently, but I suspect it's being misdescribed. It was, who knows what they were producing originally. And the interesting thing is this channel, Baltimore Fats, he sent me a comment. He left me a comment in one of my videos, and he said, you know, did you check out my video? So I'm looking at his video, and he's talking about in Baltimore, and he's looking at, this was supposedly a brewery built like right in the middle of the Civil War, and then it was expanded supposedly at a later date. But it's this old red brick type building, and it's got some of these horizontal white brick stripes as well. And what's really interesting to me about this building is right around here. He gets to the point where he talks about supposedly this Baltimore, this brewery, opened in 1863, this particular person, Weisner, and this was added to 21 already in operation throughout Baltimore. So there was already 21 other breweries in addition to this one. So what I'm thinking is these weren't all breweries, they were just, we're being told they're like, why are there 21, 22 breweries in the 1860s during the Civil War? I suspect they're all production facilities that we inherited. Yeah, so I think he's onto something here, and this is the picture of the front building. I don't know what's left of the complex, but if you kind of look, you've got arches, you got some circular windows, and if you go back to the granary, you've got arches, you got some circular windows, and that's, again, just interesting. But I suspect we inherited these buildings, and they're just misdescribing them as breweries and various other things. And I am going to keep digging into this particular area of research, but the reason why I wanted to point this guy out, not only because he was talking about this topic that I'm looking into actually at the moment, but he mentioned that, you know, he was kind of motivated to just, I think he's got 2 videos. He was just motivated to look into this stuff by looking at Rebel Without a Pause, and he mentioned me as well. So, you know what? He's from Baltimore. He's looking into it. Now, any of you can do this, and I encourage you guys to, if you feel like, if you are passionate about this subject, just go for it. You know, the worst thing that can happen is you'll be called a shill. Like if you get any kind of an audience, yeah, you'll be called a shill. Like I've been called a shill, a liar. Somebody even said I sound like Eric Dubé. So I don't know which one hurts me the most, but if you know, it's no big deal, guys. You can handle it. I strongly encourage you guys to get out there and just because you guys have all your, you have your own expertise in whatever area you live in. You know more about it than I could ever know. So it's great to see more channels. So I'll leave a link to this video as well. Now, there's one last little twist to this story, and we'll take a look at that now. The next thing that I noticed when looking for buildings, structures that had kind of some of these similar design features of these vertical stripes with arches, I came across this old pumping station called Abbey Mills Pumping Station. And this was one of a few pumping stations built in response to the Great Stink of London in the early 1860s, and Sir Joseph Bazalgette. And this place, so as soon as I see this, I'm thinking, oh, maybe we didn't actually build these. Maybe we inherited this building, and Sir Joseph Bazalgette just took the credit, because somebody had mentioned in my comments that maybe the sewers that were built in response to the Great Stink in these pumping stations, but somebody mentioned the sewers. They said, well, what if they were buried? And I thought, that actually is a good answer. And maybe we just came along, unburied all that stuff, and just reopened these pumping stations that were already there. And I know there's like a black and white photo of some men with black hats standing in front of this pumping station, and it's got scaffolding all around it, but it looks like it's already complete. And I know there's a lot of illustrations that are showing this thing being built, but I'm not definitive on this yet, but I think there's a possibility that we didn't build this. And this pumping station, it's nicknamed the Cathedral of Sewage, and it's no longer in action. And they're just saying, when the sewers of London began to overflow, the pumping house was built to alleviate the pressure by raising the waste up between two low-level sewers and the northern outfall sewer. It's no longer the main artery of London's sewer system. There's another facility next door, apparently. But on the inside of this place too, it's pretty crazy. It's all Victorian, and it's got pillars and all kinds of interesting architecture within it. And I'm starting to think the previous civilization was like a steampunk society, where that genre of steampunk, which is Victorian combined with architecture combined with steam power and free energy kind of mixed in. I suspect that they're kind of telling us something with that. There's another pumping station called Crossness Pumping Station, and it's nicknamed the Cathedral on the Marsh. And inside of this place, again, more Victorian architecture, and it was the first of its kind in the world, designed by Sir Joseph Bazalgette. So maybe it was just rediscovered. And there are, I think, 4 engines in this pumping station that weigh 195 tons each, and these giant pistons, I think, weighs like 70 tons. And it was decommissioned in the 50s, and the cost of dismantling them was so enormous, they simply left it idle. And yeah, so I think there's some more pictures of this place. But yeah, just very impressive stuff. And I mean, there were all these engineering marvels that happened in the 1860s, right? But then we kind of, in the 1900s, we pivot away from all of this stuff and go in a completely different direction. So it's just really interesting, just something to consider. But again, I'm still looking into this, but we might not have built this stuff. And the whole story of Sir Joseph Bazalgette, he might have just like dug up some of these sewer systems, and he might have just reopened some of these places. So that's about it with regards to that. And the last thing I just want to touch on is this. I talked about this church in Omaha, and this whole area had to be regraded to try and level it out. And there was this church which I thought was a mud flood candidate, and I still do. And there was something I don't think I've ever mentioned it in previous videos where I talked about this church, but it's something you can look for in churches to find other mud flood churches in old photographs. And it's looking at buttresses. So these are like support structures that they can be attached to the building, or they can kind of fan out. If they fan out, it's called a flying buttress, but if it's connected to the building, it's just called a buttress. But the base of these buttresses, they're supposed to be at ground level, thus the support, right? Here's just another photo. These are smaller, but this is a structure in France, and you could see the base of these buttresses is at ground level. So what I wanted to do is just show you real quick, pop up a few photos. This church in Omaha, if you really pay attention to the ground level, the angle here, and see this is a buttress, you can't see the base of the buttress. Here's another one, you can't see the base. Here's another one, you can't see the base. So let's look at this one, right? In level with the door. And if you scroll, like right where the ground level would be, you could see this weathering. So this is where the ground level was. This is where this ground level, as it is in this picture, it comes through right around here. And you can see where the weathering starts on this buttress. If you go down to look at this buttress by the door, and go down, you can see where the weathering starts. And if we look at this far one here, where this buttress is buried here, you can see where the weathering starts. And if you scroll, if you look down, here is the base of these buttresses, 1, 2, and 3. So here you can't see them, and here you can see where the weathering starts, and now you can see them. So this photo is taken after all this earth is removed, and you can see where the buttresses are. These were buried. Now they end up actually adding on to this building, and there's a whole new level that gets added on, and these buttresses they actually add a section to each of these. But yeah, so as long as you can notice that where the weathering starts, and you notice that the buttresses were bare, they weren't visible here, the base of the buttresses, and here you can see them. As long as you notice that, you've got yourself a mud flood church here. Some event, this building, this was ground level at one point, and then some event just rolled in all this earth, and they just kind of unburied it, regraded the whole area. But you can use this if you find churches with buried buttresses. If you can't see the base of these, then try and find another photo of the same church where they dug it out, and you could probably have yourself another mud flood church. But just wanted to point that out. So that's about it, and I'll leave it here, but until next time, guys, take care. Bye.